Hello there, I am Man in Yellow and welcome back to Phobies. This is just an async video because the season reset not that long ago, so most of my arena games are not worth showing because as you can see, like it's level 67 players, and when I face someone who's over leveled, they are typically not playing all that well anyway. So I thought I'd just showcase two games against Stelios, who is one of the players who has max level. And these are both wins because Stelios does not play all that well, as you will also see. But this is just kind of to showcase that you can win games against very over-leveled opponents as long as you are playing better than they are. These are still fairly close, at least one of them are, despite them playing pretty badly. But I still wanted to showcase it just to have it out there that you can win despite the opponent having way more levels as long as you are playing way better. Which isn't always easy to do. Of course, if your opponent plays better than you or as well as you and they have way higher levels, you're not going to win. That's just how the game is built up. But these are just to have something that I can at least put out more than anything. Because otherwise it takes a while before I can put videos out. Stelios is also very known for the very aggressive openers with a lot of 1-keys, which I think is a fine idea if you are over leveled, but I also think they use them a little bit too aggressively at times. Sometimes you should actually put a bit more value on them, to be honest. Because this way they have lost a lot of 1-keys, with me not losing as many. I mean, I guess it's technically speaking even if you look at each 1-key as a panic point, because I've expended 2 and I have 1 panic point, and they've expended 3 and they have 2. But I think it's kind of better early on to have the keys than the points. So, in my opinion, that's not an equal trade. And you can see some of these phobies, I'm hesitating to fight because they are very, very strong. This is 1000 attack. It's a wiggy. This thing has so much health that I can't one-hit it with anything other than electricals from my collection. So I'm gonna have to try and set up a kill on it with multiple phobies here. Also, you can see again a bad play here that they do where they stack all of the phobies up here, which means they are not defending this bottom point with anything but the bomb, which is obviously a bad trade with the Bachelor. And they even put their phobies up here, so even if they had defended this down here, I could have walked up and got a free hit with the Bachelor, which would have been very good for me. So that was definitely not a correct thing to do. Now I just bring the turret down because the board is kind of stabilized, and when you stabilize against a higher level player, one with very strong phobies, you want to bring out turrets because they can kind of help you make up for them having way better stats than you. And then I just bring Shovel at this point to try and bully them a little bit because they don't have it. And if you have Shovel and your opponent doesn't, you can often get some free hits in. And that's kind of what I'm going for here. Maybe I can get a hit on the Wiggy or the, what's it called, the Spot. And if they move those away, they have to also move the Jar Cannon away because otherwise I can kill it. So this is a pretty annoying setup for me as compared to what they have. Also, the reason why I actually chose to use Wiggy in this game is because I need to make up for the stat difference. Normally I don't go for this all that often, but they had so much more health than I can normally deal with my normal phobies that I were kind of forced to go for something with high power. We also got the free hit up at the top, which matters a lot here, because now they're kind of forced to back off. And that means I can move forward a little bit. And I'm also fine with keeping this down here. I can jump on this Bachelor if it goes down here to the bottom, and then just move away again. And if it goes up here, it's fairly easy for me to deal with. So I'm not really worried about it all that much, at least. That wiggy does a lot of damage to me also. And yeah, they actually killed the stabby here, which is kind of wild because you would normally not even be close to that, obviously, with the level difference. But it doesn't turn out that bad for me here because they took so much damage from doing that. That I can, like, kill a lot of things. And the bachelor pull also actually helps me here. Because it doesn't matter that my jar cannon has lower health, really. Because it's gonna get one hit by everything pretty much anyway. So I didn't care too much about that. And then I just bring one of the strongest phobies I could bring, the Hematic, in. Because I want something with a ton of stats that can also do a lot of damage to the jar cannon. And since that jar cannon took damage from my stabby, I can actually one-hit it with this. Or other phobies for that matter. Now they choose to bring Mummy here. This is one of the mistakes that I talked about in the past, where you don't want to bring one very large phobie as your last thing, because it makes it very easy for your opponent to counter you. Now at this point I only have 3 keys, so it may seem like it's kind of hard for me to counter this Mummy, but it's actually not that hard for me in reality to do. Even though the Mummy looks very good here though, because I have 2 small phobies that are very easy for it to kill, the Wiggy and the Cassowary, so it can get some mini-me's out of it fairly easily. But even with just 1 key you can counter a phobie like this, and that is because Rusty exists. If they had instead gone for something like splitting their keys up and gone like Ginsting, Cassowary, and another 2 key, maybe a Creep or something, that would have been harder to deal with. Just as an example, they probably wouldn't have gone for those specific phobies. It would be more likely that they went for some turret stuff with 1 fast phobie to their stim pad or something. But just as an example. And that means now that I can essentially just hit them with the Rusty and I automatically win them because they can't move. And even if they had gone for another large phobie, there would have been ways of countering it, right? So it's still a bad idea. Like if they had gone boss, I could maybe have poisoned it with Creep or even like bad sushi or something. And that would have been game losing for them because they would have no way of healing it. So that's why you don't want to do that. Because now they're just sitting here unable to do anything. And they're going to die. Even if they didn't die on this turn, I could have just stood back and hit them a bunch. Also, I think Mummy is best used as like a early game thing that you try and snowball the game with so that you can pull ahead of the opponent. Like if you just kill a lot of the smaller things early on with the Mummy on a large map. Like you want to use it on large maps very early on, is my opinion on Mummy. Because then you can pretty easily like kill their smaller phobies and get some of the mini-me's out, and that's how you win with that phobie. So I think that's the better use for it instead of as a late game thing, but it can of course also be used as a late game thing. It has a lot of stats and it's an undead, so that can work. Also, I just want to highlight how strong this Murder Wing is. I have no way of dealing with this. I can't even put my Tooth Fairy up here, I think. Actually, maybe I can. I can't remember. Maybe this lives with just a little bit. Yeah, it does. It's Hoplois that I can't put up here. If this was Hoploi, I wouldn't be able to put my Tooth Fairy. I can't put a normal Murder Wing up here. That would die to this. But against Hoplois, I can't even put Tooth Fairy up here, so they're just auto-lose on this map pretty much. But here I can luckily put the Tooth Fairy up there, which allows me to protect against this thing. Also, again, they do a very weird thing here where they take the bottom point like this, and that kind of opens them up to me just killing this. Even if it means that I have to disease one of my phobies, that's still definitely worth it for me. So I just let my snowball be deceased. And that also allows me to avoid the dimensional damage, since it's dying to the fire. They go Tick here, which is very scary, because all of my phobies don't like being hit by Tick, obviously. So I just kind of throw the snowball in there because it's dying anyway, so it's not worth that much. And then I bring Bull Ankles, which is the very standard phobie here. At least as far as turrets go, it's very standard because it can obviously stand on the disease tiles, so you get some space saved and stuff like that. Here they actually go fairly aggressive. They move forward and bring a lot of small phobies. So it's pretty hard for me to like fight back here. Because like these things have a lot of stats. Like this is almost 2000 health and 650 attack. Same thing for this. This Bachelor is actually fairly hard hitting, and this obviously does a ton of damage. I'm still going to move forward because I just kind of have to, but I can only do it with the Bomangles because it's so tanky. And then I apply the poison. There's an argument that I should have hit this K9000 and just poisoned this. And like just let it be, because they're probably going to heal it anyway. So it would make some sense to do that. I bring Saki here because it's my strongest fighter I can bring for 2 keys. And then I bring the bomb because then they can't surround the bomb angles. But Saki is just pure stats. It's very hard to fight for these like small aggressive phobies. I should almost definitely have hit that K9000 with the bomb angles instead, though that was probably a mistake. Going that hard on the tick. I should have just poisoned it and let it like stand there, because it had already taken some damage from the snowball anyway and things like that. So that would have made sense to do. I also just double hit them here because if they go in, it's actually good for me. So I have no reason to not do that, because my bomb will just hurt them so much. And then I bring my own Bachelor just to have another 1 key, and because I want to bang some keys. I can summon next turn anyway because I can just bomb them, and if they don't move in so that I can bomb them, then I just sacrifice the Bachelor and it's not a big deal. It was also so that I could kill that Bachelor at the top without taking damage on a more important phobie, which I believe I do here. I hit it once with the Tooth Fairy and then I... what's it called? Take it with the Bachelor. And I end up just sacrificing the bomb. Actually, maybe I didn't do that. I guess I didn't do that. Yeah, I didn't do that because I wanted to kill the Murder Wing. This is like very aggressive of me. You could probably argue that this might be wrong, but this was just because the Murder Wing is so hard to get rid of, so I think that's what my thought pattern was there. Throwing the bomb away, of course, feels like it kind of sucks, but I was pretty much forced to do that if I wanted to kill the Murder Wing. Could have also gone for a play where I just killed the Bachelor and replaced it with my own Bachelor, but I feel like that play is just very, very slow and I would end up risking death eventually. Which I, of course, don't want to happen. I don't want my phobies to just die, or my heart to just die eventually. That would be bad for me, for obvious reasons. Here I just kill the tick because I don't want the AoE to do anything bad to me. That would be pretty bad. And I get some free hits in with the Tooth Fairy. The Cazador is also in here just because then I have a aggressive phobia that makes it kind of hard for them to move forward. It both makes it so that I can kill these if they move in too closely, like if they try and kill my stuff, and it also makes me able to threaten this jar cannon because I can run over here, jump on it, and then shoot it with my own jar cannon to kill it. Plus it also just means that if they go all in here, which they did, and they were forced to use all of their hits because they wouldn't have had enough damage without the Happy, then I can double jump and kill this Thunder Rocks. So they bring the Kaboom as the last phobia here, which is actually a phobia I have now. Can't show it, but I have that phobia. I got it in my season pack, which is very nice. But they bring it here, which is very scary because if I'm not careful with how I position stuff, I'm just going to lose a ton of phobies to this thing blowing up. So I try and position in a way where they can get minimum value out of it by pulling my spot back. And then I just bring another turret. And this point is looking pretty good for me. I just have to slowly move forward while avoiding the bomb and using my range because they have pretty much only melee phobies and then the jar cannon, whereas I have a lot of ranged things, so I just have to abuse the fact that I have range. It takes me a lot of time to actually move forward here because, I mean, if I move into the kaboom, it's gonna be very bad for me. And I'm kind of on a clock at the same time because my heart is dying. But I'm forced to be slow because if I let the kaboom just straight up kill like my, what's it called, my stabby or even one of the other ones, it's very hard for me to like defend at that point. The stabby is especially important because it's all of my stats. And the disease is pretty annoying here. It makes it pretty hard for me to move forward in a good way. But I'm just slowly trying to push them back so that I can actually take the bottom point, or the top point even, with my Tooth Fairy. Which I, technically speaking, think I could have done that other turn and that might have been correct. But whatever. Here I move the stabby up to the top because then they can't try and like get over here and take this point, and it also means I can go over and take this point if I really need to, and that will be pretty annoying for them. So it forces them to split up. Like the kaboom has to be able to go up here. They don't have to actually move it here, but they wanted to threaten it so that it goes off the stim pad, obviously. But my other phobies are just slowly moving forward so that I can try and either threaten the kill on this jar or to take this point. Now I'm starting to hit the heart, which of course isn't a race that I will win, but having this jar cannon up here means that I can maybe shoot this and force it to like blow up on only the jar, which would also be pretty decent for me. And now they just go all in because they're kind of forced to at this point. I've moved so far forward that if they don't go all in here, I'm going to take back a point and they will lose. Because if I take back a point, they can never really get back in the game. The reason why I'm killing the Happy here is because otherwise it could go up to the point I have at the top, which I don't want to happen. And then I just kill the boom, which I prioritize over the jar cannon because I don't want my phobies to get blown up. And then I just take the point, because otherwise my heart is like taking even more damage and it's very close to death. So this is just a safe play. And the K9000 can't run all the way over here and survive anyway, because I can still reach it even if it goes all the way over there. They could have tried doing something weird where they put the K9000 here, I guess, but then I would be able to block it, I think. So that's not a big deal. At this point the game is obviously over because they just brought too many melee phobies. The kaboom did slow me down a ton though, because that phobia is just so scary. But you can see both of those games, they were still pretty close despite them playing pretty badly. So levels do matter a lot, but this kind of showcases that you can beat levels as long as you are just better at the game, pretty much. That's the only way of really doing it. I guess there's also a collection or aspect. Like if you have the right phobies, it makes it a lot easier. But most of it is just knowing the game more than your opponent if you want to beat someone who's over-leveled. Anyways, that was all I had for today, so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.